Welcome to another episode of MissTrial. It's so great to have Danya Perry, who is the regular co-host on MissTrial with me, and Kathleen Rice, who is not here today. She has other commitments, but thankfully we got the great Dina Sayegh Doll here to join us. Thank you, Dina, so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and being here to talk about all the things that are going on in the world right now at the intersection of law and politics. Today we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the big breaking news that Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name from consideration for Attorney General, which nobody saw a path towards confirmation there. So we should talk about that. We should talk about all the people who have Me Too issues that Donald Trump is trying to bring into his orbit and his cabinet. People like Mr. Hegseth, right, who's the Defense Department nominee. He has allegations of sexual assault that a police report was released. And what is it about the MAGA people that they don't seem to care? It almost seems to be like a badge of honor if you've been accused of some sort of sexual assault. But we're going to talk about those issues and his appointments. But a lot is going on in Congress, right? You've got, I think Congresswoman Mace, she tweeted out, I think 300 tweets yesterday alone on this issue of the bathroom and whether or not one of the new members of Congress, Sarah McBride, can use the bathroom because she's trans. And it's crazy that Congress can't seem to pass a border bill that's sensible, or a budget bill, or sensible gun bill that would protect children in schools. They can't seem to pass anything, but they can make a rule that one member of Congress cannot use the women's bathroom. It's just shocking to me that this is what our taxpayer dollars are going for. But there's that. And then abortion. A lot's going on in abortion, right? We got Wyoming, a state court judge there who is striking down and upholding rights to abortion in that state. So much going on, the Manhattan DA's office in their case and whether or not that's going to go forward. I mean, there's so much to talk about. How are you guys doing today? It's so good to see you.
Great to see you guys. I think we talked last time about how we're doing, which wasn't great then, and I'm not sure it's much better now, but this is always a bit of an oasis to come and talk to you and Kathleen and now Dina. So it's good to kind of unpack a little bit and, both thoughts and emotions sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Where would you guys like to start? Should we start with the Manhattan DA's office and what's going on there? So the Manhattan DA's office is a big open question, right? It's in litigation right now to talk about whether or not that should go forward and whether or not the sentencing should go forward, or there's also the post-verdict motion on presidential immunity that is still hanging in the balance. And that was all supposed to happen right now. But what's happening instead is the defense wants that case dismissed. They are fighting to get it dismissed. And the Manhattan DA's office is fighting back and saying, no, let's press pause for 4 years because it's temporary that you can't prosecute the president, right? The OLC memos that the Department of Justice has put out that said things like you can't prosecute or, you can't bring charges against a sitting president, right? Okay, but that's temporary. Once they leave office, you can. But they're asking for a dismissal of all the charges, which I don't quite understand on what grounds. They're saying that he can't be prosecuted at all. So I'm glad the Manhattan DA's office is fighting back and just asking for a 4-year pause on any ruling, because really there's two things that have to happen, right? First, the judge has to look at the post-verdict motion that is based on this new law created by the Supreme Court in U.S. versus Trump, saying that there's certain pieces of evidence that can't come in, right, because of this presidential immunity concept. And so And so what's happening is this presidential immunity has to be applied to the facts in the case. And Trump is saying, we don't even want you to rule on that. We just want the case dismissed. Makes no sense, right? We're too busy, and there's this Presidential Transition Act, and so we have to transition, and they go on and on about that. But so therefore, they're saying the case should be dismissed as opposed to paused, which again makes no sense. So as we've been saying for a while, and I've said it multiple times, that the sentencing is never happening before he becomes president. The question is, will there be any pre-sentence litigation at this point, or will the whole case be paused, or will it be dismissed the way they are asking? So what do you guys think? I think they have no chance of getting it dismissed, but what do you guys think?
I chuckled when you said, I don't know what grounds they have for dismissal, because we're post grounds at this point. Like we're post legal, there's nothing typical about this case. And you and I have talked about this on the Legal AF channel, Karen. So my views are pretty clear on this, but the fact that he's in this gray area, that has some authority because he's been elected, but he's not actually yet an official. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have real power. He's in this gray area. And of course, Trump wants that gray area to be all to his benefit. And I'm just tired of us on our side, always playing by the rules, always, reining ourselves in. I think that, they should make the Supreme Court say that being a president-elect is enough. I don't think we should decide that, because nobody's ever decided this before. And the Supreme Court loves to wade in and help Trump out. We'll let them do it. So that's my view on that. I think they've been way too tentative. They should not for sure be dismissing it. The DA should be doing everything. Justice Merchan, he has to make his decisions, but the other thing, regardless of sentencing, is why the immunity got kicked post-election. To me, makes no sense. Like, I understand he didn't want to sentence him prior to the election interference, but he could have decided the immunity question. And the fact that he didn't actually makes me think he's probably going to deny Trump's immunity motion. And that's why he's kind of putting them next to each other, because once you deny it, then you go straight to sentencing. Otherwise, really, he should have decided that immunity decision, back in September, really. So, I'm kind of fired up about this. I'm tired of thinking about the law when the other side, frankly, doesn't care at all about it.
Yeah, here I think, it's Trump's letters, counsel's letter relies heavily on a U.S. Office of Legal Counsel memo that does talk about initiating or continuing a prosecution against a sitting president, and says that that would be destabilizing and would threaten to hamstring the operation of government. That it could be true, but also would not justify the very extreme remedy of dismissal. It does, as you said, Karen, it could counsel in favor of holding in abeyance the case and the sentencing for the next 4 years. That actually happens with some regularity, not always 4 years, but sentences are adjourned for years on end. If you have a cooperating witness, you have a witness a cooperating defendant who has to cooperate against other people. So the sentencing is constantly adjourned during the pendency of other cases. You have, defendants with illnesses, or there could be a million reasons.
Yeah, you have defendants who are working off, like they have to do certain things in order to earn a particular sentence, and that could make it be put off for years. You're 100% right, Danya. Sentences can be put off for a very, very long time.
Right. So it's hardly unprecedented. And I think, some signs point to Merchan taking that option. I mean, Karen, you have been saying this for a long time. I've agreed. I think it's impossible. It was impossible then, certainly is now, to imagine a sentencing before Trump assumes the presidency. But there's no reason why he should avoid it forever. So at some point, and this will probably counsel in favor of him seeking a third term, but at some point he'll get out of office, and there's no reason why the sentencing can't happen then.
And I think he should be sentenced. And if they want to defer, him carrying out the sentence, that's fine. But I'm tired of him being treated so differently. He's not a federal officer today. The jury has spoken. And if Justice Merchan, he can be overturned. He can get overturned by the Supreme Court if they really want to say a president-elect cannot be sentenced. Let them say it. But I'm beyond with this thing.
Well, I don't even want to talk to you about the Georgia case, given how fired up you are.
Well,
fairly so.
Case, at least. I mean, we can't do anything about that, right? I mean, that's like you said in that memo. It's different. It's not about an ongoing prosecution. That's a different story. Like, we have a verdict here. This is just a matter of like, do you sentence this person or not? In terms of even the time it takes away for him preparing to be president, it's minimal. That's the point of that memo. It's not that the person is above the law and so they should never be. It's not like the people have spoken and so they shouldn't get prosecuted. It's that you are interfering with his job as president. I think it's a very strong argument that him showing up, or maybe even the appearance of him showing up, that it's a minimal amount of time to deal with the sentencing. And that is something that could be taken into this consideration too. Are we really going to weigh the jury's verdict so little that him taking that small amount of time to deal with sentencing is just, like untouchable? I mean, it's like a golf, one session of golf for this guy. So I think that memo to be like the last word. There has to be some like interpretation of it.
Well, I think you're right, Dina, and I share your frustration. I think the issue, the reason it can't proceed to sentence before has to do with the fact that they have to resolve this issue about presidential immunity. And that's the issue that has to happen first before it goes to sentence. And really one of the reasons I think it still can't proceed to sentence, even if the judge decides to do that, is I think that you can appeal that interlocutorily. So it would have to go to the Supreme Court, obviously, or the appellate courts, right, in New York. Either way, all the way up to the Supreme Court eventually. And it's just from a logistical reason, I don't think that could logistically happen before he assumes office in January. That's why I was saying
a different reason, and perhaps a better one, right, than just he's going to be president and can't be sentenced. That is exactly a pragmatic, logistical one, as you said. But that's not, what's being battled out right now. Before,
to be honest, though, he could have decided that in September. And why didn't he? That wouldn't have been interference. We would have had extra time. And also, you're assuming that they would say this was allowed. I don't think that this is something that you would have interlocutory appeal for. The trial is done. It's not a matter of if we introduce this evidence now, this person is harmed. That's when you have those. This is already done. So I think it's an open question of whether or not he could appeal that.
That's true. I think it's an open question. I think you're right. The Supreme Court was silent as to whether the interlocutory appeal applies to evidence. So you are, I think, very correct in saying that. But one other issue, and frankly, I'm just going to say it out loud, is what if the judge says, you know what, it wasn't harmless error. Hope Hicks's testimony coming in is the kind of evidence that shouldn't have come in. It's immune, and Josh Steinglass, the prosecutor, in his summation said, you don't have to only trust Michael Cohen. There's a lot of corroborating evidence. Look at Hope Hicks. I mean, what if the judge rules it's harmless error and reverses the conviction? Like, I think that would actually be worse. So I
feel like then that's justice.
I don't. I want him to take office out on bail, because he's out on bail, not money bail, but he has been released from custody with bail conditions, and he's been convicted by a jury. So the only thing left is this and sentence. I personally like that better. But I hear you, Dina.
I mean, to me, I'm just like, he shouldn't be above the law. He shouldn't be below the law. Like, if Justice Merchan truly feels, which I don't think that is where he's going to go, but if he truly felt that, I've always just thought he should be treated like a typical defendant. And as a defendant, he has a right to a fair trial. if that's how Justice Merchan decides at the end of the day. I just think this, like, treating him like he's an exceptional person, like, just needs to end.
Yeah, well, that ship sailed a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about Georgia, Dina? Tell us what's going on in Georgia.
Well, Georgia is at least going to go forward, probably, just not with Trump. Mark Meadows tried to get it removed to the federal court where, Trump could have the attorney general dismiss it outright, and he couldn't. I think we knew that all the federal cases against Trump were going to go away as soon as he won. That was pretty obvious. And then the interesting thing, I think that you're referring to, the development, is that Fani Willis, the appellate, is she allowed to stay on this case or not, right? That's the big question. She had a relationship with the person that she hired as her kind of like a colleague in this case. And we know what happened there. And the appellate court was going to decide whether or not she can stay on the case. And that was scheduled to have as a hearing in December. And it looks like they canceled that. So yes, I think that means that she stays on the case because the lower court had said that she could stay. So unless they had canceled it in order to maybe reschedule it, I don't know if you have any behind the scenes with that or not, but
I had a different take on that, a darker one. I had the sense that this was not a good sign and that they were assuming that the case against Trump anyway would be mooted or pushed over until his term is over. And therefore, they don't need to decide this now. That doesn't, as I'm saying it out loud, I guess that doesn't really hold water because there are co-defendants, right, who had raised this issue. But I don't know. Maybe I've become so cynical and I assume that every decision is going to go in Trump's way. And, every little tea leaf that I read confirms that. But I like your take. And I actually think that should be the way to go. The trial court judge did an evidentiary hearing and made really detailed findings, supported, in the facts as he observed them, right? The credibility of witnesses and the like, and wrote a really well-reasoned decision. But I just don't know why unless they've already decided, yes, they're going to just uphold that. I'm not sure why. It sounds like I'm not a Georgia court watcher per se, but sounds like a little bit of an unusual move, and the timing of what made me a little
yeah. What's weird is that December 5th was the date that oral arguments were supposed to happen in that case to see whether or not Fani Willis is off the case, and they canceled it without explanation. Now, it also could just mean we don't need oral arguments. We're going to decide it on the papers and the record below. So it's unclear what that means, actually, but it is interesting, as you said. And it's interesting that all three of us could have different takes, right? So it just goes to show how unclear it is. All we know is that the December 5th oral argument is canceled. But you're right. We have to wait and see what they do, because if Fani Willis stays on the case, there are other defendants that still need to proceed to, even if you have to press pause and carve out Trump and handle him later, that's fine. They have to proceed as to the other defendants. And they've gotten a few pleas of guilty already, but they still have, I think, something like 14 to go. So that
one, I think you might be right, Karen. Like maybe they just don't need oral arguments on it. That would make a lot of sense. But and that one's televised. Like, just to remind everyone, that Georgia trial will be televised, and even if Trump is not, on the defense table, he's going to come up a lot. And the evidence in there is going to be, quite a bit. And a lot of people who maybe don't get their news from places like here, I think are going to be shocked about a lot of that stuff that comes out. And there are a lot of people who watch, true crime live trials that are MAGA are on the other side. I think it is going to be interesting.
I did love that it was televised, but I have to say it's also frustrating because I have a full-time job and Danya and I practice law together, among other things, and it's hard to look away. I mean, I sit there and I'm like, I have to go to work, but I can't look away. It's crazy, right?
It sucks you in for sure.
It really does. So, okay, we are so lucky to have pro-democracy sponsors, people who choose us, people who want to advertise their products on our show. They know what we stand for. They don't edit us. They don't tell us what to say, and they choose to be on our show. And they're the ones who keep the lights on. So, we're going to take our first quick ad break. Need a break this holiday season? Is stress getting you down? Restore your zen and embrace the natural power of cannabis this holiday season with VIA. You can unwind, recharge, whether you're enjoying a quiet evening at home or embracing the festive cheer. VIA's premium THC and THC-free gummies will help you find your perfect holiday balance. VIA is well renowned for their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies and vapes, THCA flowers, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part, VIA legally ships to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee, no medical card required. So if you're 21 or older, check out the link to VIA's website in our description and use code MissTrial, that's MISSTRIAL, 2 S's, for 15% off. Unlock the power of nature with VIA's organic and vegan hemp extracts, perfect for relaxation and rejuvenation. It's the only lifestyle hemp brand. They use compounds found in hemp along with an active plant extracts to create products, each with a specified effect in mind. Whether you want to get better sleep, whether you want to ease your anxiety, enhance your mood, or simply get high, they have something for you. They also have 0 THC products. If THC isn't for you, you can take advantage of their CBD line, and their products range from 0 milligrams to 100 milligrams of THC. So they have you covered, whether you're looking to microdose or to enjoy more potent effects. So it's made in the USA, farmed and crafted with care in the United States with quality ingredients that can give you peace of mind. It's lab tested and certified. So this holiday season, gift yourself some peace of mind. If you're 21 or older, check out the link to VIA in our description and use the code MissTrial, MISSTRIAL, to receive 15% off after you purchase. They will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with VIA. The holiday season's upon us, which can be very tough on your skin, including the colder weather, the indoor heating. It'll dry your skin, these nonstop festivities. It can lead to dehydration, and your complexion feels very dehydrated and dry. And so that's where today's sponsor, OneSkin, comes in. They have a scientifically proven product that is designed to support your skin at the cellular level, so it looks and feels healthier and holiday ready. So it's founded by an all-women team of scientists, and OneSkin focuses on skin longevity, not just surface level improvements. It's all thanks to their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first of its kind to switch off the cells that cause skin to become more vulnerable. Don't just take my word for it. OneSkin has over 6,300 5-star reviews for their moisturizers, cleanser, and sunscreen. And for a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using code MissTrial, MISSTRIAL, when you check out at oneskin.co. There's no com, it's not com, it's co, oneskin.co. So this holiday season, invest in your skin's long-term health, because healthy skin is a great gift. Personally, anyone who knows me knows how much I love OneSkin. I've been talking about it for many, many months. People have noticed how good my skin is looking. They tell me I look much younger than I actually am. I'm 58 years old, and I attribute it to my skincare routine, which very much is a OneSkin routine. I love it. I can't say enough good things about this product. That's oneskin.co/MissTrial with 2 S's. Okay, we're back, and we love our sponsors. We are so really honored and thrilled that they choose to be here. And so please support them if you find them interesting. Everything that we advertise, we either try ourselves, and we choose them as much as they choose us. So We're back, and I'm with Danya Perry and Dina Doll. Happy to be here with you guys to talk about all the things that are happening in our little world of the intersection of law and politics. And I want to talk now about Congress and what is going on there. So much. So first of all, Donald Trump does not want his nominees to go through the process of advice and consent of the Senate, where they would have to be confirmed, right? And that's in the Constitution. It's a tradition, more than a tradition. It's what's always been done. There's hearings done, people have background checks done by the FBI. Congress or senators on both sides get to ask questions. Confirmation hearings are a big deal, and a lot comes out in them, and the public gets to see who it is that's going to be confirmed. And bells went off, red alarms went off when Donald Trump said, I want whoever's going to be the next Senate Majority Leader to agree in advance to do recess confirmations in order to, frankly, he didn't say this, but it's in order to avoid the advice and consent of the Senate hearing for his confirmations. I don't know about you, but I had to quickly Google recess confirmations. What the heck even is this? Because I've never heard of this before, because I know about confirmation hearings and recess confirmations. It's something that's also allowed in the Constitution. It was Alexander Hamilton who wrote about it and said, essentially, this is something because back in those days, senators had to come on horseback from the 13 colonies and elsewhere. And it sometimes took weeks or months to get to the Senate. And so if a vacancy were to become open for whatever reason while the Senate is in recess, to keep the orderly progression of government, there's allowed this thing called recess appointments. But it's when a vacancy may come during a recess, they can appoint someone, but it's not supposed to be, okay, go to recess so that I can appoint all these people so that nobody has to be confirmed. That's just doing an end run around what the intent of the law, what the law is. And so it's really atrocious and absurd. Hopefully they won't do it. But when we started seeing who his nominees were, then it made sense, because Matt Gaetz was never going to be confirmed as Attorney General. And frankly, minutes before we were starting to record this podcast, he withdrew his name, which, J.D. Vance paraded him around the Senate yesterday, introducing him to everyone and talking to everyone. So I guess that didn't go so well, because the very next day he pulled his name out. And I think they were even he was too much even for Republicans, right? So
yeah, that report, like the leaks about that report were truly, truly just vile.
Danya, tell people what report you're talking about.
There was a House ethics report. Oh, I miss Kathleen right now.
I know, right?
So there had been a criminal investigation by the Department of Justice into alleged sex trafficking and some other issues involving Matt Gaetz. One of his closest friends was also being investigated. He was a Florida tax assessor or something, and a bro of Gaetz's. He was ultimately convicted of sex trafficking and some other things. I think he got a 10-year sentence. But Matt Gaetz skated away and was not indicted. And after that, though, the House Ethics Committee did take it up, did hear testimony from witnesses, including 2 women who said that they had sex parties with him where they had sex, and at least one of them observed him having sex with an underage girl. And a lot of other really, really lurid allegations that are unbecoming of certainly a member of Congress, and all the more, I'd say, an Attorney General of the United States. So that seems, and there was no way that stuff was going to be kept under wraps, right? There are 10 members, I think, of that committee, some of them Democrats, some of them on their way out or not, running again for election. And so I think the tent was a little too wide for that. And some of the senators, I believe, who would have had to confirm him were asking for it, even though Speaker Mike Johnson had said he wouldn't provide it. I think the tide really kind of got overwhelming. And so rather than have to face that, it seems Gaetz withdrew. But, Gaetz, I think, occupies like a special place. And maybe he would not have been confirmed. But I don't know, Karen, like these recess appointments, I think they're just the idea of it is distasteful to so many people. But I'm not sure that Trump would actually need to rely on them. I think he's got such a hold on the Senate that at least some of his nominees, and they'll be able to figure out in advance which one of them will skate through. And some are, I think, more frightening than others, with Gaetz probably taking the top of the list. I think Tulsi Gabbard as director of national security is another scary one. And there are a couple like that. Hogseth, who you mentioned early on, who's got a sexual assault allegation out there, probably, who's never been in any kind of administrative or supervisory position within the Department of Defense, and then is supposed to lead a little army, right? I think the military industrial complex is, I don't know what the budget is. Where is it, like $800 billion a year? I might have made that up, but it's the biggest component, right, of the budget for agencies. And again, I don't even know. I want to say like 1 million employees, but I just made that up too. But it's a lot. It might be in the ballpark. And he was kind of like a rank and file member of the military, right? And I think the National Guard. So probably that's another scary pick. But I think some of them will probably sail through.
So the Department of Defense employs more than 3.4 million service members and civilians. Wow.
Okay. Thank you for fact checking me on that.
No. And they have an $841 billion budget.
The ballpark on that one.
We really were. Wow.
So I'm curious whether I know he's, has said that and wants people to fall into line, but at the end of the day, people have fallen into line. You hear senators like Tommy Tuberville say, like, tells me to jump 3 feet and scratch my head, I'm going to jump 3 feet and scratch my head, and so I'm skeptical that he's going to get a lot of resistance for a lot of things.
He might not get the resistance, but I don't think he wants the public what's going to happen to the people who have to go through the confirmation process, because it's going to be brutal for some of them. I mean, it would have been for Gaetz, right? Even if he could have made it through, which I don't think he could. That would have been just absolutely brutal. And I think some of them are in that category, including Hegseth, right? In addition to, as you point out, he's utterly unqualified, just utterly unqualified. He was in the military. Okay. But that doesn't mean he can lead the whole army, right? Of the whole military. Like, he's going to be the leader. He is, he doesn't have any management experience whatsoever. And he has some questionable things in his background. He was like a Fox News host, right? And
a weekend anchor,
a weekend anchor. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. And add to that, he's clearly a white supremacist sympathizer.
And he was accused of rape. And settled
rape.
Justice.
And not only that, he doesn't believe women should be in combat. He doesn't believe women. He says things out loud like women are life givers, not life takers. Women should not be in combat. Women don't make combat better. I mean, it's like we are in the 1950s again. And there's so many women who have served in the military, right? There's the member of Congress from Hawaii who lost 3 limbs and has a Purple Heart. I have to find her name, and I feel terrible that I'm not
right. Tammy Horwath? Is it Tammy Horwath?
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. And, just to say that to her, and she has a Purple Heart, medal, like to say that to so many women who have been in combat, who have, who are such an essential part of, frankly, I wouldn't want to be in combat, but it should be my choice, right? It's ridiculous to have views like that. It's terrible.
Oh, 100%. But they don't care that we're in the 1950s. I mean, it was the most misogynist ticket ever. Jesse Waters on Fox said that men don't say happy birthday to other men. Like, this is the reality they're living in. So they don't care if it's, they like the idea of women not serving.
What, so now saying happy birthday is anti-masculine?
Yeah. Did you see that clip? I'm like, basically they're saying a man is like no joy whatsoever. Like, they're making men and women miserable boxes for them. But yeah, he said that he couldn't say happy birthday to Joe Biden because men don't say happy birthday to other men. I mean, this is like where we're at. Okay. Wow. But in terms of like the appointing in a recess, I mean, Trump already did it. Like in his last term, especially toward the end, a ton of his department heads were acting department heads because he appointed them during the recess. This is not novel. This is not new territory for him. I think, the only thing that pushes him back is that nobody wants to give up their own power. So is Senator Thune going to be willing to neuter the only power he has, essentially? It's going to be a power struggle, essentially, between Trump and Senator Thune. And that's it. Like, none of the rest of it matters. I feel like we have to start living in the new reality. The new reality is it doesn't even matter what the background check says or doesn't say, I mean, they spin it and their echo chambers, however they want. The Matt Gaetz stuff, they spun it as, well, the Department of Justice investigated him and decided not to charge him, so he's innocent till proven guilty. Like, that's their answer. They will have an answer like that for everybody. The answer to Tulsi Gabbard is, she's couldn't be, feeding information to Russia because she was, in the military. She was of service. We know facts do not matter. It does not matter what they say in those hearings. It doesn't matter what we think of these people. There will be a hearing if Trump ends up winning the power struggle with Senator Thune. And if not, and then in the Senate, any last vestiges of the old establishment Republicans who think that the Republican Party can still be mature and reasoned, it's dead. They are a dying breed. How many of them, Trump can kind of turn and to convince MAGA? I think that's the only question now. Like, it's the only question. How absolute is his power become now, or, in 6 months or a month from now? But, so part of me almost doesn't even want to talk about how unqualified these people are, because I feel like it no longer actually matters. It's just, to what extent does Trump control the Republican Party? Like, that's the only question. And I think for us, our hope is not even that more bad facts come out about these nominees, but our hope is that the infighting in this party drags it out as long as possible, and state attorney generals, et cetera, can get better prepared for what's coming.
We're going to take a quick break again, and then we're going to come back because I want to talk to you guys about whether you think Matt Gaetz can reseat himself in Congress. Did you know that just 4 companies control over 80% of the U.S. meat industry, and China now controls the largest portion of U.S. pork? Like 99% of the chicken, 95% of the pork, and 78% of cattle are raised in feedlot or confinement buildings. Over 80% of the antibiotics in the United States are fed to animals, and less than 2% of Americans are farmers, yet 100% of us eat. So 99% of farmers have an off-the-farm job just to pay for farming, because the average farm income is actually at a loss. So these companies literally use mobster-like tactics to crush American family farms. And with the additives they're putting into our food, Americans are stuck with, I would call it, kind of sketchy meat. So what can we all do about this? Let me tell you about this new exciting company that I absolutely love. They've come up swinging on behalf of American family farms and your family's food security. They're called Moink. The business is simple. Moink's meat comes from animals raised outdoors
where animals should be, frankly. Their farmers are given an honest day pay for an honest day's work, and they deliver meat straight to your doorstep at prices you can actually afford. Born, raised, and harvested right here in the United States of America is where your meat will come from. So keep American family farms farming by joining the Moink movement today at moinkbox.com/mistrial. Sign up today, get free hot rolls in your first order. It's spelled Moinkbox, MOINK box.com/MISSTRIAL. Oink, oink, get moinked, moinkbox.com/mistrial.
Okay, we're back. So I have a question for you guys. Matt Gaetz, when he resigned, said, I'm resigning from the 118th Congress, and I do not intend to take the seat in the 119th. He didn't say I'm resigning from both or that I'm not doing it. He says, I do not intend, which made my little, antenna go up. And I thought to myself, what does he have up his sleeve, right? What is he doing here? Because he resigned 2 days before his report was released. So, okay, that's buried. And then he now withdrew his nomination for Attorney General. So all the facts won't come out because look, the Democratic senators who we'll have the Democratic senators who were on the ethics committee, or they themselves will talk about the report, whether it's released or not. And they will talk about every single thing in it and say what, so we would know if he were to go through the confirmation hearing. But what if he takes it? So he's been elected to the 119th Congress. He has not resigned from it. DeSantis hasn't held a special election yet to put someone else in. What do you guys think about that? Because I'm not entirely sure. And I was hoping Kathleen, I'm sorry, she couldn't make it today because I wanted to ask her this exact question, which is, can he take his seat in the next Congress, right? The one he was reelected to. Can he take that seat? And what happens to that report? What happens to the committee? Is the committee dissolved and they have to form a new committee? Do they have to vote again anew? I mean, what happens? Do they say, well, we're just going to move forward and it's not going to come out? Do you guys have any thoughts on this whatsoever? I was sort of debating it with Popak last night, and I think it's more sinister than Popak. Popak thinks, oh, he's not coming back. Let's figure it out, whatever. But do you guys have any thoughts on this?
I'm with you. I think he's. I've never thought of Gaetz as like a master chess strategist, but this could be exactly what it was. It could be like, I don't think there's a world in which he never really thought he was going to get confirmed as Attorney General, but he resigned so that the report wouldn't come out, and then withdrew from that nomination knowing he would never get it, and then jumped back in the 119th. And then there's no report. Now, I don't know, it could break a bunch of different ways, but that would actually be very tactical and smart if that was the play all along. But, I don't know. It's just always a question of like, it's not really almost like what's the legality or what are the rules of the House. It's almost just like, what can they get away with, right? And so between DeSantis and Trump and his allies, are they going to let him do it? Like, who's going to say no, I guess is the question.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that if he comes back, I think that report is coming out. I mean, the ethics committee has not disbanded. I mean, they just voted the other day about whether or not to disclose it or not. They know the possibility of him coming back just as much as we do. There's no reason for them to disband it. Speaker Johnson is in charge now. Speaker Johnson will be charged in January. I think there's no reason to believe that the report goes away just because he's out of Congress for a few weeks. For sure.
A different, I don't know this question. This is why I wish Kathleen were here too. Maybe either of you. But if it's a new Congress that takes their seats in
new January, committees, they form all new committees with new members.
This committee was formed back in 2021. They've been looking into this for a really long time. So this wasn't just from a recent committee. So I don't, and it's bipartisan. I think that's the point, is that it's supposed to kind of be there regardless of the leadership changing. I think that I think it stays. I don't think that it goes away, even if he comes back. But there have been so many leaks that we just talked about. The New York Times doing the graph and of all the points of the women, the girls that he's paid for, and some women too, and the witnesses. So the question I think Matt Gaetz has is he knows what the report has that is not already public. And it's possible it's not much more, in which case, at this point, it's all out. Like, it doesn't even matter. Very few people are willing to walk away from power. Very few people. So I think if he can, he stays on that seat, unless he thinks the House report has like one other kernel of information that would make a difference. I don't think it really makes probably much of a difference with all the information already out there and all the Republicans still standing by him. So unless there's another job lurking out there, maybe more lucrative for him that we don't know about, I think he probably comes back.
That's what I think too. So, we all think that. We could tell Popak that we that we think that too. Well, we'll see. Okay. Before we leave Congress, WTF with Nancy Mace? What is this obsession with the bathroom? Right? I can't. First of all, it's an obsession, right? It's an absolute obsession, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it because obviously, as women, we use women's bathrooms all the time, and we don't see anything. You go into your little stall, you do whatever you're going to do, and then you walk out. There's no like getting undressed or, there's nothing like that. And P.S., all the members of Congress have their own offices. They have their own bathrooms. So, if they need to change or something, they'll do it there. This is just a women's restroom on the House, when they're on the House floor, when they're doing business. And for whatever reason, she has this obsession about poor Sarah McBride. I don't understand it.
Not just Nancy Mace, right, who has this obsession. It is kind of the whole MAGA apparatus, right? It has been a fascination over the past few years. It's, a couple different iterations, women's sports, but the bathroom controversy, if you want to call it that, has loomed so large. I mean, they called, Tim Walz was Tampon Tim, right? Because he, made tampons available in high schools and put them in both sets of bathrooms, right? And that, they thought that was going to take him down. And who knows what the impact was. So I've never really understood this particular culture war. Other than that, I guess it lands right with some of the base.
I did poll observing in Nevada, and there was candidates campaigning, and somebody was campaigning for the school board. And so she would interact with every voter that went in before the 100-yard mark. And her whole message was, we got to keep the girls the girls. We got to keep the boys the boys, like the schools. We got to protect, the girls. They're changing them into boys. And, I'm like, okay, this is a nonsense argument. The number of voters who agreed with her as they were walking into the polling was scary. I was like, whoa, like people really believe that somehow the schools are indoctrinating or trying to change genders. I think they probably don't have kids in public schools, because I'm telling you, public schools are not doing anything like that. But it is a winning political argument for the Republicans. That's why she's doing it.
Even if you're talking about kids, kids with brains that aren't fully developed, and you want bathroom, kids need to be protected differently than adults, right? In bathrooms, like even if that is how some people feel, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying, even if that's how they feel, what is the problem with Congresswoman Sarah McBride? I don't know why I just said Hutchins. Sarah McBride using the women's restroom. I just don't understand it. Right? Like she'll go into a stall. No one's going to know any different. Like I don't understand it. What is the problem? I don't even know what her biological, what her body looks like, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. And nor will anyone ever see it.
Well, let me just really fast, though, clarify what's happening with the kids, like you said in the beginning, because I think there's a ton of misinformation out of it. Like, I'm in California. California is very ahead on this issue with protecting trans children. But even in California, when they say schools have to have a bathroom for a trans child, they're not saying that child has to go into the bathroom of the sex they think they are. They're saying the schools have to have a gender neutral single stall bathroom available.
That makes sense.
But I'm telling you, that information is not out there, and it's completely so. It's as if, California or these, liberal states are saying girls or people who identify as girls have to use a bathroom. That's not what they're saying. So I think that's really important, first of all, for people to just realize that when they're trying to empower a trans child, they are saying you need to have a single stall gender neutral bathroom. And then in terms of the adult, the thing that honestly I found even the most offensive thing about what Nancy Mace said is when she said Sarah McBride has no say in the matter, which I felt like that's like the core of what this is. Let's diminish this person to zero because I don't agree with how they choose to live. And the Republicans have done this over and over and over. This to me feels a lot like what they did to the LGBTQ, but back then it wasn't the LGBTQ, right? Community in the 90s around gay marriage and what it means to be heterosexual and homosexual. And there was so much fear and like, we have to control this because it's going to spread and it's going to influence our children. It's the same discourse, but just around the trans issue. And so when you have somebody, she is her peer. She's not above Sarah McBride. She's not below Sarah McBride. And for her to say something like that, I thought was just like, so that is what this is obviously about. It's not about the bathroom, because to your point, they have their own private bathrooms. They also have single stall gender neutral bathrooms. Whether or not Sarah McBride even wanted to use a multi-stall women's bathroom, like nobody knows because she didn't even give her a chance. She may not even wanted to have done that herself for all we know. It was a manufactured issue. Like, nobody even had a chance to feel uncomfortable. Not like somebody has to, like, it's okay for somebody else to be uncomfortable. Like, that's life. But I'm just saying, like, they didn't even get there. And they didn't even get there because it's not about that. It's about making a group of people, like yet another group of people, diminish them to zero because that works for us politically. And I think that's why so many of us are like proud to be Democrats because we have a lot of flaws in our party too. But I'm so glad that we don't do that. We don't win by, demonizing here a really, really, really small and really vulnerable population of our community.
Yeah, I just feel so bad for her because first of all, I can't imagine what it's like to be born in a body that you don't feel is the right body or the right gender. I mean, that has to be hard, right? Just growing up like that, then making the choice to transition and having to deal with all of that and then living that life. It's got to have some struggles. I just imagine that it must have some struggles. But then you do it, you succeed. And, and the reason it has struggles is because you've got society like the MAGA people who are so atrociously unaccepting of that, which I don't understand. Why is that such a threat? This is what difference does it make, right? To you, this is how this person feels. Nancy Mace was calling that a mental illness. She said that Sarah McBride is mentally ill. That's what she said. So she thinks that's a mental illness, which again, I just can't imagine how that must feel. It must be horrendous, but she had the strength to plow forward, to live her authentic life, to transition as a woman. She looks like a woman. I think she identifies as a woman. I don't think it's they, them. I think it's she. I don't know, but it's what, looks like to me. And great. She was elected to Congress. I couldn't even do that. Like she's a strong, powerful, smart woman who did that. And before she takes a seat right? She's got Nancy Mace just on a tear. And literally, I think it was like 300, almost 300 tweets yesterday on Twitter or whatever it's called. They, that's like an obsession. And then she got Mike Johnson to pass a rule to say she can't use it. She can't use that bathroom. Like, the dysfunction in Congress that they had a bipartisan border bill that everyone agreed with, couldn't pass it. That they shut down. How many times do they shut down Congress because they can't fund it? That we still have school shootings because they won't refuse to pass, sensible gun laws. Like, you name it. There's so many things they do not do. But, passed a rule first day, barring one member of Congress from using a particular bathroom. It's embarrassing. It's atrocious. It's offensive. And, Sarah McBride put out a statement saying, basically, I'm not fazed. The people elected me to represent them, not to use a particular bathroom. Nothing to see here. So I'm going to be outraged on her behalf because I'm upset by it, whether she is or not. I'm upset by it. I'm outraged. I'm embarrassed. And I can't believe that this is what my taxpayer dollars is paying for. People like Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and all the other pearl-clutching, outraged crazies that are in Congress, making other people feel really bad and passing dumb rules. So I just wanted to talk about it, call it out, and in some ways just kind of say, hey, look, we're really supporting you because, it's got to feel lonely. So before we end, I just want to talk a little bit about Wyoming and the state court judge there, Melissa Owens, who has ruled, surprisingly and amazingly, that Wyoming laws that were passed banning pills violated the Wyoming Constitution. Pills meaning abortion pills. That the ban on medication abortion and the broader ban on all types of and methods of abortion impeded the fundamental right to make healthcare decisions for pregnant women and this entire class of people. So it suspended a woman's right to make her own healthcare decisions during pregnancy, and it wasn't reasonable or necessary to protect the health and general welfare of the people of Wyoming. So she permanently blocked a law that she had temporarily halted in the state because they were trying to do that. Now, there's an amendment in the Wyoming Constitution, and I love this because this was actually put in there by Republicans because they were so against Obamacare that they put this in the Constitution, basically saying, there was an amendment that was approved by an overwhelming majority of state voters in 2012 that guaranteed adults the right to make their own healthcare decisions. So the plaintiffs here used that constitutional amendment that was passed by Republicans and, really, it was really something that was championed by Republicans, really threw it in their face and said, okay, great. You're allowed to make your own healthcare decisions. Then women should be able to make their own healthcare decisions. What they argued, though, what the defense argued was, well, abortion is not healthcare, which, again, okay, you tell that to the women who have died trying to seek these medically necessary abortions. So it'll be interesting. Look, she's just a state court judge. So it'll be interesting to see if she's upheld in such a conservative state. But I was thrilled to see that in Wyoming, so I wanted to call that out. Did you happen to see that, Dina?
Yeah, I mean, that was just like the irony was just so perfect because they obviously in Wyoming had this like overreaction to Obamacare, right? Like the Republicans were like, we're going to lose all of our health care. We're not going to be able to, and their overreaction was this constitutional amendment. So it's kind of like a sweet, it just like, I love it. I love that it's getting used now for women.
Same.
And it's a very hard argument to say that an abortion is not healthcare. I mean, you literally need a doctor, right? Even if you're doing it by bill, you need a doctor's order. Yeah, I think with that constitutional amendment, they're not going to be able to pass that law, because I do not see how a judge could really say that abortion is not a healthcare matter. It's not as if the Supreme Court said the fetus has a right to life and has its own liberty, and and then maybe that's not the case there, right? They didn't say that. They just said that there's not a constitutional right for abortion. So I think I think that's, I love it. It's a good one. And it makes you wonder if that can actually get used in some other states like Florida, right? Florida that did not pass their own abortion bill this time around. Maybe they should try some right to healthcare decisions, kind of make it a little bit broader to maybe capture some of those kind of libertarian type Republicans. And I think it could be used as a strategy to protect abortion throughout the country.
Agreed. A lot to learn there, a lot to see there. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Will Matt Gaetz resume his seat in Congress? Will someone else take that seat? Will there be a special election? Who knows? But he definitely left it unclear. And like I said, I'm really glad that he withdrew his name from nomination for Attorney General, because that was terrifying. As a lawyer, as someone who's a lifelong career prosecutor, not in the Department of Justice, I was a state court prosecutor, but as someone who did that for decades, the idea of someone like Matt Gaetz as the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the country is terrifying. And I think there are hundreds, if not thousands, of employees at the Department of Justice breathing a huge sigh of relief since he's withdrawn his name from consideration. Big question, though, will be who is the next nominee. That is, many have said, the single most important role that Donald Trump can appoint, because the Attorney General is going to decide and have to have the I guess wherewithal to dismiss the cases against him, right? Because that's what he's gonna do, and to figure out what to do with all the Jan 6 cases. Is he going to dismiss all of them, including the ones charged with serious felonies like assaults on police officers and otherwise, or is he gonna take a case by case basis, right? And that's a big question, because I know they want to dismiss a lot of cases, pardon a lot of those individuals, commute their sentences. So and
does he go after Letitia James like he's been threatening?
Exactly. And retribution, and who he's going to go after in retribution on behalf of Donald Trump. It's a big job, and of course there's also like terrorism and normal, like, terrible crime that he's going to have to oversee. So, it's in all of our interests that they appoint someone really good and somebody who upholds the rule of law and applies it without fear or favor, that maintains the same integrity that the Department of Justice has really always had, that justice is blind and doesn't allow Donald Trump to go and do these retributive prosecutions that he wants to do. So let's see who that's going to be. Yeah. Hopefully it's someone a lot better. But Dina, thank you so much. Danya had to hop off. Her day job called, but thank you so much for stepping in for Kathleen, who couldn't be here today. We hope you'll come back again. Love seeing you. I love duetting with you. I love doing all things with you. But for you to be on MissTrial really means a lot to us. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to all the listeners and viewers who are here today and who follow MissTrial and listen to us and Legal AF. And please subscribe to both the Midas Touch Network and the Legal AF MTN YouTube channel, and stay with us. It's a fight. We're all going to be here. It's going to be a long 4 years, but we have to keep them honest. And that's what our plan is. And that's what we do here on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF and MissTrial and all of these shows that we do is it's all about bringing the truth and trying to just bring facts. And sometimes we give you our opinion and we'll tell you what that is, but we're trying to tell you the facts and the truth, because that's not always being done these days. So that's what we're here for. And Dina, again, great to see you. Signing off from MissTrial this week.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/newsletter.